next on Parenting by Heart.
How do you teach them the difference between right and wrong?
It's easier sometimes just to ignore bad behavior than to correct it.
I wonder why what we've done with the other two children isn't working with her.
I mean, I listen to what they say and I put it in consideration, but I always do what I want to do.
I think I'm real strict with the kids because I was a really wild kid.
I started doing drugs, I guess, to get her attention.
He doesn't understand that no is a word in the English language that really exists.
Hi, I'm Nancy Lowe.
And I'm Ted Lowe, and welcome to Parenting by Heart.
Today we're talking about misbehavior, disobedience, discipline, and punishment. The question we keep hearing over and over is, how do I get my kids to do what I tell them to do?
Or, how do I get my child to stop doing what they shouldn't be doing?
I feel like I'm always being blown off course.
You know, I don't know if a lot of people have the same trouble with their kids.
Good to eat.
They go at it with one another 24/7. You touched me, you breathed on me. Mommy, he's looking at me too long.
How do you teach them the difference between right and wrong?
I probably lose my temper with the kids more than I do with anyone else on earth.
I had to physically pick her up and carry her in the room, and she was just screaming and kicking the whole way.
Kids like to test.
I wonder why what we've done with the other two children isn't working with her.
Quite often I feel like the kids are in control. I think they know how to push our buttons.
Are your kids pushing your buttons? Are you feeling out of control? Are you confused? Let's look at it from a teenager's perspective.
They'll give you all these rules and stuff, but not really think about like logically how it is.
I couldn't provide that 100%, so I didn't try at all.
I mean, I listen to what they say and I put it in consideration, but I always do what I want to do.
I had to get away. I couldn't stand being around my mom.
She doesn't really care about how I feel. It's always about how she feels. He just blows me off and tells me what he thinks.
I didn't feel like he was showing me any love at all, so I didn't think I had to show him any love.
Parents feel out of control, yet teenagers feel their parents are too controlling. Where are you coming from? What is your parenting style?
Many times I'm probably too strict.
I would tend to grant a little more freedom than Joanne does.
I'm pretty strict.
It's hard to get on to your kids when you love them.
I tend to be a very controlling person.
My parents were very strict with us.
I think I'm real strict with the kids because I was a really wild kid.
Sometimes it's easier to give in.
If I say do something, and whatever it may be, I expect it to get done.
If they know that dad is going to say, no, you can't do this or that, and oftentimes they'll go to the mother.
They know that there are things they can do with dad that mom is probably not going to let him get away with.
Hey guys, no, come here. Are you strict or lenient? There is a biblical guideline for balance.
To help us out, we've gone to family and parenting experts. We've interviewed best-selling authors Dr. Ross Campbell and Tim Smith, Christian counselor Pam Johnson, and national speaker and psychologist Dr. Kevin Lehman. Children obey your parents is the right thing to do because God has placed them in authority over you. This is the kind of scripture as a Christian parent you want to highlight, asterisk, put on a little Buford's pillow at night, maybe make it into a wall hanging by way of a stitchery. One of the big mistakes we make as parents is that we come from authoritarian background. Most of us probably had fathers like I had who said things like, hey, you listen up, you're going to do what I tell you to do, you understand me? You get that look off your face right now, I'll come and change it for you. Now notice there wasn't any, Father, may I share with you my feelings on the topic? I mean, justice was swift.
Where are you going?
My friends? You got a problem with that?
No, just go.
Fine.
Fathers, don't provoke your children to wrath. Don't exasperate your children. I want my child to be obedient, but I also am aware of the free will that God has given them. They have a mind of their own. And if all I've done is got them to blindly obey me, I got news for you. The jaws of the peer group are waiting for your son or daughter. And you have set your son and daughter up to be devoured by the peer group.
The other extreme is a parent who says, you know, I just don't want to get in the way of my kid. I kind of want to let him grow up and just experience life. And that's the permissive parent. I don't want to get in the way or hassle them. I want to be their buddy. And so they are trying to always have peace in the home. The boss is trying to control, the buddy's trying to have peace.
We don't let kids do everything they want to do. Why? Because we love them. So what we're talking about is walking this delicate, balanced beam of life that says, yes, I love you unconditionally, but that doesn't mean I let you just run over me.
It is a delicate balance, but being too lenient or too strict can have tragic results. Listen to Bobby's story.
I guess me and my mom, we have a problem communicating, you know. I can carry on a conversation with her, but I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you know, my mom really, she didn't know me as a person. I mean, once she's got her point across, it doesn't really matter what I have to say. And I build a wall, and, you know, everything she says, you know, I can hear it, but I'm not listening to her. Everything, you know, started when I was in 6th grade. I kind of, you know, pushed her away, and I didn't want her being part of my life. And I started getting in trouble at school and started hanging around negative people, started stealing. And my mom kind of, you know, put restrictions on, and then I got older, and, you know, I was like, you know, this ain't happening, so I started doing drugs, I guess, to get her attention. And pretty soon, you know, my mom was having to, you know, come get me out of jail.
You know what I get asked a lot? Parents coming to me with this sense of urgency and desperation and saying, Tim, what can I do to change my kid? I don't want him smoking, or he's getting a bad grade, or he's hanging around with the wrong kind of friends. What can I do to fix him?
What they're asking in another way is, how do I influence my child? And my response back to them is, you influence them out of the relationship that you have with them. You will have no influence, or at least a positive influence on them, if you don't have a relationship with them.
Once we have an understanding and a relationship and an investment with the child, and they feel valued, they are more likely to take our guidance, our discipline, and our correction.
If you do not have good relationships with your kids, you're going to have a rebellion at some time. This comes from the use of punishment before the child feels loved unconditionally.
Nancy, this may be one of the most powerful points of the entire series. Parents, you cannot influence your children if you do not have a good relationship with them.
It's like we discovered in the first series. It's up to parents to convey unconditional love. Your child needs to know that you accept them no matter what.
Dr. Ross Campbell has just given us a warning. If your child misbehaves, be careful not to overuse punishment.
We were on vacation last week, and our daughter, they'd been staying up late. There was 5 kids in the house. They'd been running around and skiing and all that kind of stuff. And she threw the biggest fit, of course, in front of company, that I had ever seen. And I was just, every instinct in me just wanted to spank the tar out of her. But I just put her in the room and then sat on the stairs for a minute, just waited for her to calm down, and then came in and we were able to talk about it, and she just fell asleep in like 15 minutes. She was exhausted, and that's where it was coming from.
We had a period of time where Merritt was constantly getting up at night. She would get up and need a drink of water. She would get up to tell us something she'd forgotten that happened at school. And we were getting very, very frustrated with her. And, you know, we were coming up with punishments. Okay, if you get up again, this is going to happen. And finally, we realized that she was going through this period of time where she was very, very scared of robbers. And she was just frightened about being in her room alone.
Instead of asking yourself, what can I do to correct this kid's behavior, which usually ends up in punishment, let's ask ourselves, what does this child need? Does this child need love? Next, does this child have a physical problem that needs to be corrected? Okay, third, is this child defiant, or is it 2-year-old negativism that's masking defiance? Those are the things you want to go through to determine what the child needs.
Defiant behavior many times is about a child, especially with a younger child, asking for them to be shown where the boundaries are, or attention-seeking behavior. Let me know that I mean something to you. I'll accept any kind of attention from you, even if it's negative.
The number one cause of misbehavior is an empty emotional tank. When a child's emotional tank is empty, there is tremendous pressure the child becomes desperate because there's nothing they need more and want more than to feel loved.
If I have a 7-year-old and they are just being belligerent, defiant, okay, I'm going to talk first to that 7-year-old. I'm going to say to them, this behavior doesn't look like you, and it looks to me like something else is going on, and you must be using this kind of behavior for some kind of reason. Let's figure out what it is. Maybe their friend didn't invite them to their birthday party, or maybe they failed a test at school and they're embarrassed about that, or maybe there's a bully at school that's picking on them. But when you first encourage a child, you're not accusing or attacking the child. You're giving them an opportunity to separate from that bad behavior.
When your child misbehaves, instead of jumping right into punishment, try to see why your child is misbehaving.
Are they tired? Are they sick? Do they have an empty emotional tank?
Sometimes, as we all know, it's just plain old defiance, or your children are strong-willed or they're stubborn.
Kids have these little built-in parental-like antennae that tell them where our soft spots are. And they have this way of engaging us in battle. Now, parent, you can feel it coming. You know it's coming. Now, this is a gut check time. What are your feelings right now going on in your head? Do you have an attitude? Are you ready for bear? I mean, do you want to fight? If you're looking for a fight and you've got a strong-willed child, you're going to get a fight. But the chance of solving this in a positive manner dwindle if you walk into that power struggle.
I think the biggest struggle right now that I'm dealing with as far as Michael is concerned is his testing my authority. He doesn't understand that no is a word in the English language that really exists. You know, he doesn't accept no for an answer a lot of times, and he'll work me. Or sometimes he'll just shut down and he won't do anything. It's just like, I mean, if I banish him to his room or something like that, and I'll give him conditions under which, you know, he can come out and get back in the mix or whatever. It's like, I'm not doing anything. I'll break you down, Mom. I feel like he thinks he can work me a little bit.
Children will test the boundaries, and they will do negative things to get your attention. But it does not have to be a power struggle. Dr. Campbell says there are 5 ways to deal with defiant behavior.
First, when a child is actually defiant, why not use the most positive means of behavioral control, and that is requests. When we give a child a request,
Would you clean your room, please?
we are giving the child many nonverbal messages, and all of them are positive. We're telling the child, yes, I respect your feelings. I respect your opinion. But best of all, we're saying, son or daughter, I expect you to take responsibility for your own behavior. And once you get in the habit of that and start using it consistently, the child appreciates that and will start using it themselves, and eventually be almost all requests. Requests don't always work. Then we can go to commands.
I want you to clean this room up now.
Commands are a negative way to control a child's behavior, but still very effective. The third way we have to control a child's behavior is gentle physical manipulation, gently guiding the child physically in doing what that child should be doing. That's very positive. If that will break defiance, why not use that? The fourth way of controlling a child's behavior is behavior modification. That means you wait for the child to do something correctly, and then you reinforce that behavior by giving that child an reward for that. It depends strictly on their behavior. It does have its place in parenting, but if it's used too much, then it can form a real distorted value system within the child. A child will develop this what's in it for me, because then they'll get the idea, oh, if I want anything out of this world, I've got to earn it. We must love a child unconditionally, but the very foundation of behavior modification is conditional.
Behavior modification is very popular, and as Dr. Campbell said, at certain times and in moderation, it can work. But behavior modification can create an environment in which your child performs only to get a reward.
Now let me ask everybody a personal question. Have you gone potty today? I know that sounds a little bit off the wall, But did anybody give you an M&M for going? I don't see any hands out there. And we live in a society that says, you know, if you want to get a kid to do something, you got to flip them an M&M or promise them something.
That's an absurd example, but it does make the point. Don't get into the habit of promising rewards to get your child to do something.
Now we're going to take a short break, but stick around. We'll be right back.
When I get to high school, I want my mom to drive my school bus.
I want to be captain of the hall monitors. The tallest girl in school. When I get to high school, I want to break wind in study hall.
I want to get beat up by a girl. When I get to high school, I want to be the teacher's pet.
I want to keep my braces forever. I want my cousin to take me to the senior prom.
Welcome back to Parenting by Heart.
You've heard 4 ways to break defiance. The simple and most overlooked is simply use request. Second, try commands. Third, gentle physical manipulation, which is great with younger kids. Fourth, behavior modification. It can be effective, just don't overuse it.
Now let's move on to the 5th way to break your child's defiant behavior.
Get in here and you sit down, young lady. You know you're not supposed to act like that to your sister. You know
If all these things will not work and the child remains defiant, yes, we have to go to punishment. But then we want to do it correctly. And this means that we want to go over this beforehand with our spouse or a trusted loved one to determine under what circumstances we use each particular punishment. As you no doubt know already, determining punishment is seldom easy. And why is this? First of all, because punishment must fit the crime. And children are very sensitively aware of fairness and consistency. That child knows when the parents are being overreactive or they have been too accepting of poor behavior. But we must remember that seldom is punishment needed to break that defiance.
As Dr. Campbell said, choosing a type of punishment, it's not easy. And there's so many situations going on in your own life that will affect how you will react.
I may be tired. It's late afternoon. I'm trying to get supper ready, got a load of clothes going, and the children will be disobeying me, and I know it, but I just ignore them because if I acknowledge their disobedience, then I must discipline them. And so it's easier sometimes just to ignore bad behavior than to correct it.
I think I'm too lenient when I let the issues in life that are happening at the moment get to me too much. And I'm on overload. I just can't deal with another thing.
When I'm in pain because of my back, I don't have very much patience, more short-tempered.
I have punished all 4 of them when I was angry before, and it is very difficult not to do it.
I hate to admit it, you're never supposed to strike out of anger, and I did.
Spencer, I thought I told you I had this room cleaned up. Son, I want to...
Say if I had a wonderful day and everything's going my way and I feel loving towards everybody and it's time to punish my child, I'm probably going to be too lenient.
Thank you.
If I've had a horrible day, I'm really in a bad mood, I'm angry, depressed, I'm probably going to be too harsh. And that's just as bad, of course. And another thing is good punishment pattern has to be consistent. I don't want to get into the punishment trap. Punishment trap is giving a child punishment when something else far more positive will suffice, or giving them the wrong punishment, which is very easy to do.
If I only use punishment, okay, they will only comply with behavior when they're in my presence because they'll be fearful of punishment and they'll be angry at me, and therefore I'll have no influence on them except to influence them to go in a negative direction. But if they're going to behave when I'm not around, if they're going to behave and be responsible adults, it'll be because of my influence. It is born out of a strong relationship with them.
They're not quite the same.
The experts agree it's impossible for you to control or influence your child without a strong, loving relationship.
There will be times when that relationship is strained and you will feel overwhelmed and out of control. But Tim Smith offers this encouraging advice.
One of the best things that we can do to become a more relaxed parent is to choose our battles wisely, or we'll be battling all the time. We don't have enough time, energy, or emotion to build into our lives confrontations on every imaginable front. So parents, choose 2 or 3 issues that you're going to put 80% of your parenting time, energy, and emotion into, and deal with those and let the other ones go. But I can see out there now the perfectionistic parents who want to deal with all the issues. I know who you are, and you're tired. Be willing to let some things go so you can be more effective and have more energy to focus in on the issues that are absolutely critical for this time of life, for that particular child.
Next week, we're going to be talking about some of those specific issues, those power struggles in parenting that you face, things like temper tantrums, talking back, doing chores, and anger.
And some even more serious issues like drugs and alcohol.
But remember, it all starts with a strong and loving relationship with your child.
In your Parenting by Heart handbook, we have reiterated the 5 ways to control your child's defiant behavior and other important points to help you be a better parent.
See you next week.
Goodbye.
I said I can have some. You said I can have some. Why? When does it come?
Did you ask Mommy for him? Yes, ma'am. Give me a gun. No. You have to ask first.
No.
1.
No.
2.